I had always been the type of person to dismiss the weird and unexplainable. Growing up, I learned to ignore the strange noises that kept me up at night, chalking them up to the wind or the house simply settling. But that was before I moved to Ash Lane. The house was a bargain, cheap rent, with plenty of space, tucked away in a quiet corner of town. It seemed like a fresh start, a place to escape the noise of city life, where I could work on my writing in peace. The neighbors were friendly enough, but they warned me about the house, saying it had been abandoned for years, that no one ever seemed to stay for long. But I shrugged it off. After all, old houses had their quirks, right? The first few days were uneventful. The house was old and creaky, with the kind of charm that can only come from years of history. I spent most of my time unpacking and setting up my new space. There was something oddly comforting about the solitude. But by the fourth night, I noticed something strange: the tapping. It started softly, almost imperceptible at first, like the faintest knock on the window. Tap, tap, tap. I thought it was probably just the wind or a tree branch brushing against the glass. But when I checked, the yard was empty. No wind, no branches, just the quiet darkness of the street. I tried to ignore it, but it didn't stop. Every night, at the same time, just after midnight, it would come. Tap, tap, tap. 3 soft, rhythmic knocks on the window. The tapping began to gnaw at my mind. It became an obsession. The clock would tick past midnight, and my heart would race in anticipation of the sound. I'd wait, eyes fixed on the window, hoping it would stop. But it didn't. And each night the sound grew louder, more insistent. On the 7th night, I woke to it. The tapping was different. It was sharper, louder, as if someone was standing right outside the window, knocking with deliberate force. I felt my stomach churn with dread. I pulled back the curtain, my heart racing, but when I looked outside, there was nothing. Nothing but the empty street and the soft glow of the streetlight casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. But then I saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the yard. A tall man, cloaked in a dark hooded coat. His face was hidden in shadow, but I could feel his eyes on me. The air felt thick, suffocating, as if the world had gone still, holding its breath. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, he was gone. The tapping continued, now faster, more frantic. Tap, tap, tap. I stumbled back from the window, my mind racing. I couldn't breathe. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a neighbor or someone playing a prank, but the man had been standing in my yard, staring up at my window. No one lived nearby, not like that. I went to the door, convinced that I'd find some logical explanation, but when I touched the handle, I froze. The house was silent, too silent, but then I heard something, a whisper. "Let me in." The voice was barely audible, a low rasp, like it was coming from the other side of the door. I recoiled, my heart hammering. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The tapping continued, more urgently now. "Let me in." It was louder this time, almost a command. My skin crawled as I backed away from the door, my eyes darting around the room. The house felt different now. The air felt thick, as though it was closing in around me. My pulse quickened. I turned toward the window again. The man was standing there, in the same spot, his face hidden beneath the hood. But there was something different now. A shape, barely visible, shifted behind him. Something wrong. It moved like a shadow, but it was not a shadow. I couldn't make it out. The shape was blurry like smoke, shifting in and out of focus. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything I could explain. Suddenly I heard the loudest crack. The window trembled as though something heavy was pressing against it. The glass screeched, as if it were about to shatter under some invisible force. In a blind panic, I rushed to the front door, desperate to escape, but it wouldn't open. I pulled and twisted the handle, but it was as though the door had been locked from the other side. My breath came in short gasps, the walls closing in on me. I turned, looking for any way out, but the house felt wrong. The shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, shifting in the corners of my vision. The tapping was everywhere now, on the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It was deafening. I ran back into the living room, but before I could make it to the other door, I saw it. The shadow. It was moving across the floor, slowly, like it had weight. It wasn't cast by anything in the room. No light source, no explanation. It was just there, sliding, crawling, like something trying to come to life. I backed away slowly, my hands shaking. But the shadow followed me, stretching toward me with unnatural speed. I reached for the door again, but as my hand touched the handle, a voice whispered in my ear, "Let me in." I spun around, my body freezing in terror. There, standing before me, was the man. His hood was down now, but there was no face, just a black void where his eyes should have been. A hollow, empty darkness that stared at me, pulling me in. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow had reached me, curling around my ankles, pulling me to the floor. The tapping grew louder, overwhelming, filling my head. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. All I could hear was the tapping. Tap, 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 and that voice, whispering my name over and over again. And then, everything stopped. The next morning, the neighbors found me standing at the window. My eyes were wide, unblinking, my face pressed against the glass. I was still alive, but they said I looked like I'd aged years in a single night. The police came. They found no signs of a break-in, no sign of anyone entering the house, just an empty space, full of silence and shadows. The records for Ash Lane were even stranger. There was no record of the house existing before last year. It had just appeared. But as the days passed, I started hearing the tapping again. Tap, tap, tap. The sound would come late at night when the world was still, and I would feel a cold shiver run down my spine. I moved away thinking that would be the end of it. But no matter where I go, I still hear it. Tap, 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 the whispering voice. And every time I look out a window at night, I see him, standing there in the distance, waiting. And I know, he's still waiting for me to open the door. If you enjoyed this bone-chilling tale, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Haunted Chronicles for more terrifying stories that will keep you up at night. Share this video with your bravest friends, if they dare, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever encountered a shadowy figure? Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, the shadows are always watching.